All right. So that is me, Nitin Mishra. I'll be taking the session today on the aviation analytics introductory session for the first day. That is briefly about me. I am Vice President Analytics at InnoDataTix. I'm an alumnus of Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow. I've also done training programs in neuro-linguistic programming. All right. I have other bunch of certifications from various international bodies. So that's basically about me and my qualification. I have been a manufacturing man all my life. I have been spent considerable part, almost 15 years of my life in the manufacturing sector, um, in the space of power generation, etc. All right. So that's basically about my qualifications: a Lean Six Sigma Green Belt with C-SWIP 3.1 quality professional with NLP practitioner. So that's about me. About the organization that I represent, I am from InnoDataTix, but I'm also from 360 Digit MG. So 360 Digit MG is a training service provider company which is growing in leaps and bounds. It has got more than 8 years of experience. It has been rebranded as 360 Digit MG. It was previously something else, and it has been rebranded. And we have more than 8 years of experience and a huge background and huge number of people and qualified people. I am one among the many people who are associated in the training division. All right. So this is our website, and these are the various programs. You can probably look at the various courses, the businesses, blogs, webinars. All right. Just maybe take another minute to explain to you about some of the free resources that we provide as part of our website. So we talk about the mind map. So depending on your interest, even if you are not a registered student of 360 Digit MG, you can check out all these things. There is ethical hacking and cyber security. We have an extensive mind map. If you want to get into the details, what are the details, all these things, which is a ready reckoner for everything, is there. We have mind maps on full stack web development. All right, we have that. All right, what are the things that are part of it? This is another thing. Then we have certification program in data science, which is our flagship program. We have a lot of people. This is a very, very extensive uh, mind map wherein you can go to various depths. So these are some of the things we offer. I mean, I'll not go into the details of all of them. So if you're interested, there are a quite comprehensive detailed mind maps are there. Apart from mind maps, we have something called as learning resources. If you're interested in analytics, because this is aviation analytics, as far as the overall analytics, the data science is concerned, we have what is called as the digital ebook, which is this one. So here you can, we have tried to incorporate that flipping sound of the page just for this thing. So we have a lot of content that is provided. Now, if you notice the content, the number of words per page are very less. The objective is to make it visual, the objective is to make it less textual, and try to give, so it is more of bullet points, ready reckoner, or something like learning objectives that we provide. So this is something that you all can use. It is in our website, 360 Digit MG. And within our website, if you go to learning resources, scroll down, and you should be able to see the digital book as well as the mind map. So this is, of course, and of course, the priceless courses is what we are doing right now. So this is one resource. I'm just trying to elaborate to you the various um, freebies that we are offering as part of our thing. Registered participants will get an entirely different scope and entirely different things to study. But even if you're not registered, there is so much you can use. Over and above that, we have our YouTube channel. All right. So this is our YouTube channel. This is, you simply can look for 360 Digit MG. I am just um, you know just shared you the link. You may want to subscribe to that. So there is amazing amount of content, the amount of videos we have. All right. Playlists, various um, you know modules, various aspects of analytics. All these things are, we have marketing analytics, supply chain analytics, the other things that are there. All right. Um, Not just that, we also have extra programs like improve efficiency in MS Word. All right. So these are various things. Pardon me, I was not intending to turn it on. So this is something that we have. So I would strongly recommend that you should use this amazing content that is provided absolutely free of cost to all of you. All right. Now, coming back to the topic at hand, which is aviation analytics. All right. So for this, I'll be using our website, which is InnoDataTix, for which I'm a part of it. So this is our website, InnoDataTix.ai. All right. So here you can see the our USPs, partners, clients, all that is there. So I'm just going into the services, and as part of services, we have done a lot of work on aviation, and because it is a limited duration program, we just have very little time. I will dive right in to one of the use cases as to how we have worked on it to give you some insights with reference to what can be done. All right. So this is our website, InnoDataTix, wherein we have aviation analytics challenges. We can probably look into that. Um, all right. And then we have the business problem, how to optimally utilize the cargo space by predicting the unused space pre-assigned to vendors. So this is uh, a case study wherein we have gone in and you know the business challenge. So the approach to analytics any analytics, let it be aviation or human resources or marketing or financial analytics, is to clearly identify what are the challenges. And we have identified these business challenges, which is reduced optimum utilization, revenue loss, difficulty to in resource leveling and balancing due to uncertainty in space, loss of new business due to pre-allotted space not completely used. Now, there might be organization. One of the biggest problems that the airline companies have is they have to, for emergency cases, because they have these old customers, for them they'll have to book certain space in a hope that those customers will bring in some cargo to be shipped. For instance, FedEx. Now FedEx has their own airlines in most of the places, but they also take the services of other airlines. Not all the airports have the FedEx services, most of the airports. So, in fact, there is now what happens is if the FedEx wants to ship something which has reached, let us say, an important airport in, let us say, uh, from Delhi airport, it wants to ship something to a smaller airport in the nearby area. A FedEx aircraft may not be able to fly. So, to that particular location, it will not be viable. So, they may want to give away their cargo to some other plane which is traveling in that route. Now, given that FedEx is a big business tycoon, the other people, the other airlines may be offering some space guarantee for them. What if that particular space is not utilized? Now, neither has FedEx taken for it, and because FedEx is a very old customer, they cannot charge him for not having used. Obviously, that is a loss. So that is one of the things that they want to know. So how can they predict and how can they utilize. So this is, the method by which we are trying to do. So once we have looked into this, we have gone into the details of, you know, predicted the cargo space utilization for a week in advance of travel start time, routinely performed forecasting and time series analysis. Some of you may be aware of time series analysis, etc. So, and then we have tried to find the unused space. So these are some of the strategies that we have, used as part of our discussion. Okay. So that is one thing. So before I proceed any further, can you please respond? Participants, could you please respond to my message there? Just a feedback. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now let us proceed with the session. All right. So coming back to our case studies, this is the business problem with reference to cargo management. We've also seen the, how to use reward points for customer churn. So this is another case study that we have seen, right? So business problem statement, and then again the business challenges, lack of targeted marketing for passive clients who accrue reward points. Uh, this particular this particular business challenge, I'll just like to spend some time in discussing about it. We have all right, we have this a very very big aviation company that shut down in our country, in India. All right, I don't want to take the names right now because we are hoping to work on that. So officially, I cannot take the name. So there was a very respected and renowned aviation company that shut down, and that aviation companies had a huge, um, you know, number of loyal customers whose reward points have been totally lost. All right. Now, one of the things that we are hoping, I mean, the revival of that aviation company seems to be on the cards. They are the investors are delaying it because of the pandemic. But one of the things that people are looking forward, and they have also addressed that, is to also address the reward points, the accumulated reward points. That will also be something that they will be taking over because that is a huge business. And being in the space of aviation analytics, I've been working with, I'll be talking about another company's work that our team has done in a few minutes, and I'll be showing you the case studies. So within that, you will come to know that you know, I've interacted closely with the big shots of the aviation industry for that particular project, and I've come to know that the reward points business is as big as the airline business itself. All right, and that is why many people want to stick on to it, and the redemption of the reward points. All right. It's a very expensive affair. The reward points, you think you're getting big reward points, but the redemption, you are, for the purpose of gaining more reward points, people will spend slightly more, etc. So this is something that people have told me. So that's something I was pretty surprised when I started as a novice to the domain. I got in a lot of insights in that. So that is one thing. So in this particular case, we did some kind of segmentation to identify the customer demographics with reference to this. So we used unsupervised learning of clustering and segmentation, all right, and creating specific marketing strategies for different clusters, again based on our consultation with the our end client, that is the person who's there, all right. Then also build some recommendation system. This is again the recommendation system is again an unsupervised machine learning algorithm, all right, based on the user utility matrix by accommodating reward points as another column in the utility matrix, all right. So the kind of reward points the person has and the kind of utility that the person would be willing to use up. And there was another thing, of course, not mentioned here: the rate at which the reward points were accrued by the people. Now, for instance, there could be a person who would fly once a month, and in that 1 month, he may take about 500 or 600 points because he may be flying corporate or he may be flying business class, he may be flying full service. So he may accrue 500 or 1000 reward points because of that. And there could be another person who would be traveling, what shall I say, LCC, low cost carrier. You could be traveling, no frills, no frills in the same aircraft. He may be trying the lowest price, okay, the J class as they call it, and he may be flying almost every two times a week, all right, and he may in the process accrue because he's traveling on the no frills mode. Each flight he could be earning only 150 points. That is like the bare minimum points he can earn, but he's earning those points much faster rate. So the rate of accrual of points at what rate, as with reference to the time series data, is something that we try to do and try to use that as a demographic to the kind of customer the person could be, his traveling habits. And therefore we also created some specific things for frequent flyers who fly very frequently in the low service or the modes, to give them some kind of upgrades or for being a customer, etc., and also giving them some extra points. So these are some of the things that we have done with reference to this. Reward points is another case study that we have done, and another case study is connecting the airports effectively. How to effectively change the connecting airports to make airlines profitable. So I'll be doing a deep dive in this particular thing. Pardon me. Sorry. Pardon me. Let me just open that. So we'll be doing a deep dive on this specific use case. That will be our case study for today. All right. So the concept of hopping flights. Uh, the other thing is, in the airline industry, all right, it is profitable to fly smaller aircrafts because the 70-seater aircrafts are, the one of the most common aircrafts are the 180-seater in domestic segment, all right, the Airbus A320. Then, of course, there is the ATRs, which is about 70, 71-seater aircrafts. And then, of course, you have the bigger aircrafts, which are more suited for the international travel for long-haul flights. All right. So if you were to look at, of course, the case study that I'm talking of is the for the domestic aircrafts, and more so it was an LCC, low cost carrier, which was a regional player. It wasn't even, it hadn't even become a national player. It was a regional player. So they had strategically invested in these short haul flights, the aircrafts which could, travel only up to, up a maximum of 800 kilometers in one go. All right. So, but they, for safety reasons, they do not travel beyond 550 kilometers or 600 kilometers. So this is something that they had, invested in. They have invested in a few aircrafts, the bare minimum aircrafts. Now, as per the uh, ruling within our country in India, all right, for a company to register as a aviation organization in the space of, domestic or passenger aviation, you need to have a minimum of 5 aircrafts. All right. Uh, the routes you will have to pick up wherever it is. You can, I mean, you'll have to bid for the routes. You will have to say, okay, these routes I want to fly, and you'll have to pay some money, and you will have to do your study with reference to how much projected business you can get. So obviously, this particular aircraft tried to concentrate in the southern part of India, and they obviously touched upon routes which were less frequented by the big players. All right, there are some big players in our country. I don't have to take names. Some of you may be aware, uh, but yeah, because this is, uh, a seminar wherein I have restrictions of naming the aircraft company, but it's a South India based aircraft company. So they moved into certain cases, and they were having certain routes that were bleeding them, and certain routes they knew they could, but they were not able to operate because of the limitation of the distance. They could not really fly to that. So they wanted to come up with some kind of a routing mechanism where they will have a hopping flight, where you will have refueling happening at a particular airport, and from that airport move on to that particular destination. What is it that they can do? So this is something that we wanted to do. So we've come up with a solution, and we did some secondary research. This was more of a research kind of a thing where we collected information from various sources, and and made a suggestion. And it was heartening to note that the suggestion made resulted in the change of the route. They actually decided to include a new location in that, and that is something, that success story I'll be talking to you in just a moment. So this is essentially what it is. All right. And fuel consumption prediction is also something that was a very so it's relatively a simpler kind of a thing. All right. So 30% of airlines operational expense is fuel cost, leading to direct impact on the bottom line because of the increase in crude oil prices. So just quick survey, I mean a quick thing I want to ask you. Um, are you aware of the, I mean, you're all attending the aviation analytics, so I'm assuming that you all have interest in aviation. So are you all aware of the Olive case study in the airline industry? You can respond with yes, no. Olive, olive is something that uh, olives, right? You can respond with yes, no kind of a thing. Scenario, please. You're aware. Oh, great. One person is aware. No. Let me just wait. No, no, no. Many people are not aware. Okay. So let me just quickly, I mean, just it's an again a case of optimization. It may not be directly related to data science, but it is definitely a case of optimization. So this happened more than 30 years ago. All right. So let me share my screen. So this happened more than 30 years ago. All right. So American Airlines. All right. So the in-flight beverage and the food in the what is that called, the cocktail that they used to serve, they used to have two olives put in them. All right, two olives in each cocktail that was served. This is 30 years back when airlines were full service, and when you used to um, used to have elaborate meals and all that being served, really high class meals that used to be served, and this thing, cocktails, alcohol used to be given. So what they did was they removed one olive from all their drinks. All right. So not only was the saving with reference to the cost of the olives, all right, but it also was the reduction in the weight. All right. So when they revealed that it thousands of dollars, I'm not able to recollect how many dollars, but they made a saving of thousands of dollars when the people, and this is more than 35 years back story that I'm talking about. So it's become a case study about the olive, you know, airline industry, the olive case study. So there are various means by which airlines try to optimize the cost, because there is only so much fuel that you can fill up and there's only so much you can pay. So how is it that I minimize the fuel amount of fuel consumed per passenger? All right. So for that reason, I'm sure all of you are aware that your cabin baggage is becoming smaller and smaller. All right, from 9 kgs to 7 kgs to 5 kgs of almost now, latest. All right, your check-in baggage from 35 kilograms to 15 kilograms. Now you'll have to pay extra for any check-in baggage. They are putting a separate charge on that. I'm talking about the low-cost carriers. So there are various things that they have done it. So we've also tried to build a prediction model predominantly in the perspective of taxiing. All right, taxiing and landing. So how is it that we can do that now? Are you all aware when does an airline said to have departed? When you say airline departure is 17:55, that is 5:55 p.m. If an airline's departure is 17:55, when do you think that airline departure happens? Any idea, friends? The scheduled departure is 17:55. So when does the airline departure happen? The airline departure happens when the airline starts taxiing. All right, it is not wheels up. Okay, so in the American industries, they also have wheels up time. They also have taxiing time. So the customer, when the aircraft is closed and it leaves, right, it leaves the vestibule and starts to taxiing, it is considered the departure as, in certain cases, that is what is done. All right, off the block. No, I was told about this particular thing. So because the announcement in the aircrafts, yeah, when it is pushed back. So as soon as, that's what, even when you do the pushback, right? So even before that, it's the pushback. When it starts, it is considered to have departed. When the gates, no, gates are closed is fine, but the time when the pushback starts, absolutely right. So I mean, I use the word taxiing because it is moving back, then it turns, then it goes to the runway. All that together, I was using the word taxiing. Perfect. So when you have that particular scenario, it is considered to be now the fuel consumption is happening extensively for these kind of aircrafts because of excessive taxiing and things like that. So that is why, what is the new things that they are being followed now in many of the, I mean, if the aircraft is uh, in a very big airport wherein you have extensive number of vestibules, aero bridges available, then it's okay. Otherwise, aircrafts do not prefer to go for the aero bridges. They prefer to taxi their passengers by bus because it is cheaper to ferry them in a bus and take them to the terminal and take them from the terminal and take them there. So these are some of the subtle things that were there. So this is basically how we can optimize that and what is the routing mechanism. So many things we have tried to address that. So these are some of the case studies that we were discussing. So now we'll discuss quickly about some of the in one particular case study where we have, I've named it as ABC, for the simple reason that I don't want to, you know, talk about the thing. But this is, of course, the node optimization. So this is one specific thing that we are going to be doing is node optimization. So let me just open the presentation. Okay, this one maybe not. Yeah, so this is the ABC Airlines load factor analysis and the recommendation for a new airline. So basically, we were closely interacting with this particular airline. I told you, right? It was a South Indian regional low cost carrier. Is this thing we have an ongoing thing. So this is of course the various routes. I will get into that. All right, and average revenue per kilometer per passenger. All right, so this is uh, this is how their operations are, and there are some routes which are making very poor. So this is average revenue is 7.90. So this is the average value, and they want to push these things. So this is some dashboards that we created for the airline industry. All right, and also not just this thing, but average revenue per trip, and trying to look at the bleeders, which is having excessive outflow. All right, and try to analyze, maybe we can get rid of the routes. So because the reason why we were doing this particular analysis to identify the routes that were bleeding the aircraft, and try to identify some kind of alternatives. So we did an extensive amount of study with reference to alternatives of departure. All right, and alternative of maybe having um, another airport. Let us say if you have something from this particular route. All right, so MAA to CDP. Okay, so MAA stands for Madras, Chennai, and Kadapa, CDP, Kadapa. So we have a route. Can we have from Kadapa to something else wherein the Madras, that is Chennai airport, will be able to assign that? So these were all these aircrafts, all these routes which you see are performing very poorly is something we looked into it. Then average revenue per flying minute, we wanted to get into those details also. Most of the uh, scenarios were pretty much the same, and we got the details. And interestingly, I don't know about the really big airlines. I personally worked with this particular regional player whose name I'm not allowed to reveal. And my colleagues have worked with Avianca Airlines and Korean Airlines. All right, they are relatively bigger. Uh, in the interactions that I had with my principals in this particular aircraft company, while in theory they were aware, quite a few of the data analysis that we have done, they knew that this route was bad, but they were not aware about the exact numbers in comparative studies. So, as a data scientist, as an analytics professional, don't assume that your customer is aware of all these things. It is not important. In fact, very simple and trivial things also, when you inform them, it can be taken this thing. So EDA, which is an essential part, exploratory data analysis, which is an essential part, is something that you need to look at. So we've looked at the the load factor analysis, all right, with reference to over a period of time. All right, so this is the load factor for mark label by. All right, data is filtered on the sector which keeps the Hyderabad MA. So when you have this, so between 9900, this is a pretty good load factor. So Hyderabad and Chennai, Hyderabad is something like this. Then we also had other routes as well, and most importantly, we got into the details of the trend analysis. So we've done from 1st August to 1st February. All right. So it was just a 6-month data, and in that we had taken the load factor starting from as low as 55 and as high as 100. All right. So that is what we were looking at. So when we got into the details of it, if you notice, in almost all the routes in this particular zone, all right, in the middle zone, You can see that, yeah, in this particular zone, we could see that. Now I'm not able to immediately recall, but when I mentioned it to them, so that was a time when there was some seasonal aspect associated with that. Sometime in the mid-September, all right, there was some seasonal aspect associated with that, where there was very little travel and they were pretty much aware of it. And similarly, in this particular zone, now the happy zone for the aircraft company was this zone. Almost the load factor on almost the prime routes were doing pretty well, and for consistently a long time, starting from probably the first week of October, almost till the late October. All right, so this was again another reason that just after the dip, generally there is a rise. So this particular aspect study, while we directly did not deal with it, but knowing that there is nothing that they can do with the drop here, whenever there is a raise, what is it that they can do to, fill up and suitably price their tickets, etc. All right, so that is something that they worked on. Now, there's another thing that as an aviation analytics enthusiast for many years, I have been doing. So any day of the year, all right. If you, I mean, of course, now things because of COVID, it is all topsy turvy and things have changed. But it is something that I used to do sometime in March, sometime in January, sometime in April, sometime in November. I will always check out fares. This is again predominantly an Indian example. So I don't know if you may be able to relate it, but I would check out flights from Hyderabad, from Delhi, from Chennai, Madras to Goa. All right. And I would look for dates just for the heck of it. They look for dates for 30th of December, 29th of December, 30th of December. All right. Even 6 months into the future, the fares would be 17,000, 18,000 rupees. Okay. So that is something that each sector knows. I'm just giving an example. So that is something that each sector knows that this time it doesn't matter how much money. It's party destination for New Year at Goa. So let us go to Goa. So flights are going to be filled. In fact, sometimes they have additional flights during that period operated by certain aircrafts. So what kind of services? So they of course had their own team wherein they could, try to ride the wave here, all right, and offer some kind of deep discounts because an empty seat is zero money. A seat, even if it is 1 rupee, because this particular aircraft used to have 1 rupee tickets. All right, so they would offer randomly customers 1 rupee tickets. So what they started doing was, and that tickets use redeemable, not just one rupee. So if you're not able to redeem your ticket, you don't really feel bad. All right, it's not like you just pay 1 rupee, and you can get this particular ticket, and everything is taken care of it. So they would give the dates in these regions. So anytime in these regions, it will obviously be not in festive season. It will not be on weekends. It will not be on this. So they will give this particular option, and then almost about amongst the 1 rupee tickets, they would give one passenger. They would have a random lottery within the aircraft for one passenger, and that one passenger in each craft would get it, and they were able to get about 30 to 50% conversion in that. All right, the people were flying it, and therefore that much what to say customer movement and loyalty and load factor improvement is there. So that's one thing that they decided. So this is obviously some amazing insights that we got from the company. So this is analysis of the derived variables. We did a lot of these analysis. So these are the routes that we had, original destination, the distance. All right, you can see most of the destination is less than 500, 550. All right, whereas it can travel up to 750. All right, that is the safe limits it can go. So various factors that we have taken. What is the hub? What is the aircraft type? So there are basically two types of aircraft, TMK and TMP. All right. An average revenue per flying minute is something that we have created. This is, of course, an analysis that was highly appreciated by the customer. And then we use something called as linear programming, all right, to maximize the revenue and maximizing for the trip, all right. So linear programming is a simple tool that is available. This is the screenshot of the linear programming, wherein we put a lot of constraints, these many constraints, and we did it, which is pretty similar to linear regression, but it's slightly different take on that linear programming. And we tried to come up with, so the number of variables is 17, sorry, 38, my bad. And within those 38 variables, we had some limitations to the variables, the constraints. I mean, what is the max, min, and what are the rules that needs to be followed? So that is something that we did, and it was obviously appreciated. And like I said, our job while giving them recommendations, this is the road, this is the area, this is the gray area, for instance, this is the zone, this is all these things. When we give them, their team is able to take up, because they are the marketing people. So they are able to say, okay, this dip, what do I do to increase it? All right, how do I make it up and things like that? So what do we do? So 1 rupee flights, free. In fact, they used to also came up with free flights, all those things. They would do that. So yeah, this is again just a snapshot of the equation. Uses 38 variables. Something could determine that a better output from Hyderabad node can be achieved by flying 40 trips instead of the current 36 flights. All right. The average revenue per day could go up by 16% to 69 lakhs from the existing 58 lakhs. Dalka advocates adding extra to and fro flight from Goa to Rajahmundry. So all these things with this particular linear programming is something that we could work out. All right. So that was something amazing. Of course, the Goa sector is already highly saturated, and many places from everywhere people are traveling to Goa. And it is a very, very, very seasonal kind of thing. Like only if you have suddenly you have a long weekend, 3-day weekend, you will have Goa. It is very, very erratic from what we have seen. So Goa was one sector that they were not very keen, because they're already players. They wanted to have more of a steady revenue as a policy. So that is what it is. Now, what about the hopping flight? So this was the case study that I was, talking of, wherein I said we will go into the depths of it. So the proposition of a hopping flight. Now, uh, this particular airline, uh, if you have not already guessed it, that's I mean, I don't know if many of the Indian folks would have guessed it. Okay. I just was checking for any messages that I have missed out. So there are no messages. Let us continue. Right. So when we propositioned them the hopping flight, so currently they were when we were doing this operation, they were having two main hubs. One was in Hyderabad, one was in Ahmedabad. All right, and they had chosen the location such that the aircraft. So there were three aircrafts that were. They had five aircrafts, and one was in the pipeline, was en route. They had already ordered, and three more after about 6 months when the business was done. So they were planning to increase their flight to 8. Now I'm told their flight has gone up to even 12. In spite of the pandemic, they have a fleet of 12 aircrafts anyway. So at that time when they were having five aircrafts, uh, Ahmedabad was a separate hub, and Hyderabad was a hub, and there was no changeover of the flights. Meaning, the routes that Hyderabad was operating, Hyderabad Kadapa, Hyderabad Warangal, Hyderabad this, Hyderabad that, it was more of a star spike kind of an arrangement, the network. All right. So every flight would travel to some destination, come back to Hyderabad, travel to another destination, come back to Hyderabad, travel to the third destination, come back to Hyderabad. It was more so like that. So it was servicing like that. All right. These star, hub and spike model it was. And similarly was the same for Ahmedabad. So two aircrafts in Ahmedabad were doing the same thing. They were doing sorties basically in the to different locations and back within Ahmedabad, and there was no rotation. So the two aircrafts that were stuck in Ahmedabad were there, and the three aircrafts in Hyderabad were there. They were contemplating for a different hub altogether. All right. So what we recommended was that we have an intermediate place, which is Indore. All right. So we can fly from Hyderabad, Indore, and Indore, Hyderabad. That way, the all the flights, all the aircrafts from two different hubs will be in a position to, um, you know, uh, get their services. So basically, what we had was, pardon me, some 5 destinations, some 3 destinations. This is what it was. So an aircraft would come, go here, would come, go here, would come, go here, would come, go here. This is what it was operating. So what we recommended was, we recommended a flight. So this way, an aircraft that is free, so one of the carriers can move here, the carriers from here can move here, and there can be a beautiful rotation. And obviously, Hyderabad hub has a better servicing option. So the Ahmedabad flights, now there was previously they were flying the aircrafts empty for any major servicing. Now, Bombay was another servicing hub. So they were after Hyderabad, Bombay. So Ahmedabad flights were flying empty all the way to Bombay for any service and repair. So that was something that didn't really make sense. So we recommended Indore. And we also looked at the routing and the kind of running and where we would, you know, fit in that particular route, what time would it be. So this is what is was proposed depending on the routes. All right. So just to give you a context of VDY IXU, all right, let me just all right. So VDY is Jindal Vijayanagar, all right, Karnataka. Aurangabad, all right. So these were the locations, but sorry, not VDY, VDY. Sorry, 1 minute. Yeah. So these are the IATA codes. All right, Jindal Vijayanagar, which is in Karnataka, which is Vidyanagar airport. There's an airport there. All right. So they were having kind of these things. Obviously, like I said, they were low cost carriers and they were trying to attract these kind of routes. So given the aircraft, so we tried to identify which aircraft would do this particular sortie. So it would leave at 10:15. The all right, it would leave at 10:15, 11:15. All right, from at 11:15, then it would from 11:40 from it will go to Bangalore. 12:45 to then 12:45 after about 20 minutes from Bangalore go back to this thing. From there at 2:45 come to Hyderabad. From Hyderabad come to IXU. All right, Aurangabad from 7:50 will come to Hyderabad. Once it reaches Hyderabad 8 o'clock, we will propose it to Indore at 10 o'clock. And from Indore to Ahmedabad, all right, at 10:15, Indore to Ahmedabad, we'll operate a flight 10:15. All right, from Ahmedabad, so when it reaches there, this is the route in between, had suggested in between. So now this particular aircraft is available in the morning from Ahmedabad to PBD. All right, I got Rajkot. All right, Porbandar Airport, Rajkot, Porbandar. So this is the route that we proposing. Now, what was happening prior to our propositioning? This was one aircraft that was doing, sorry, not this. This was one aircraft that was doing the sortie. This was another aircraft. Now we have connected the two. So one aircraft can probably do this. All right, next day morning. Obviously, this is going to be affected. All right, so we can have another. So now this particular aircraft is going to Hyderabad. So next day morning, it can do this. And this airport can, so you can have a loop with two airports. So one aircraft flying here, one aircraft flying here. And you would be surprised to know that we actually managed to have Hyderabad Indore route created. All right. And unfortunately, the Indore Ahmedabad route as planned did not work out. So it was they had done in fact, at 8 o'clock, 8 p.m., from Hyderabad to Indore, there was a flight created. And that particular flight would stay back at Indore because it is cheaper to have the aircraft stay at a less important airport than to stay at Hyderabad. All right, it is cheaper to park the aircraft there, and the morning would resume the operation. So this particular route did not work out, but nevertheless, it was a massive success, what I would say. It was operational and it was doing relatively good business. Of course, post pandemic, they had to do some cost cutting, etc. Now, what is it that we did? How did we decide to give this recommendation? How did we do that? All right. So first, online search in the perspective of SEO, online search trend more than 100 phrases, 5 lakh there were more than 5 lakh such searches. So Hyderabad, Indore, flight, distance, duration, cheapest. These were the things that, in the context of Hyderabad, Indore, when we did that, there were 5 lakh searches per month. All right. Then we did some prediction model classification method. For instance, load factor weekday wise prediction done. We did so many observations with 14 variables. We did some secondary variables. All right. We used some random forest and naive base. Then we also looked into the routes, Hyderabad to Indore. Now, Hyderabad to Indore connectivity by flight is, as it is, very poor. All right. Bhopal Indore was pretty good. So we looked at the bus routes. Bus routes was very, very long. Anything above 10, 12 hours of bus journey is tiresome. Under 8 hours is reasonably okay. Then we looked at the trains. A train on average has 4 3-tier AC and 1 2-tier AC compartments. So how many trains are there? So each tier compartment has 72 seats. So our target is 3-tier air-conditioned trains, 2-tier air-conditioned trains. Right. So we were looking at this is the margin, and we also obviously data of Indian Railways is not available to anybody, but we could always see due to some kind of analysis that how long was their waiting period, and whenever we used to book, how many seats were vacant. On those basis, we could make out that 5, 6 days, 7 days before journey, if I want to book a train journey from Hyderabad to Indore, it was invariably full. It was invariably full, which means 72 into 3 and 54 into 2 seats have been booked. All right, 3, 4, or 5 days before the journey. So this was a pretty long discussion. It took us almost about 3 months to work and begin the analysis. All these things we had done. Tourism India, DGCA website, aviation fanatic, and all these things. We looked into that. We looked at distance between nodes, travel time, number of AC buses that is available, Red Bus and various other bus journey operators. When you look for this particular route, it'll say there are 15 buses available or 7 buses available. So, and a rough calculation, approximately 15 seats or 20 seats or 50 seats, depending on the type of bus, how many seats are there. So we were looking at the traffic. All right, if only a bus route is a very good metric that we've realized. If because it is very easy to discontinue a bus. All right, if a particular route is not viable, the travel agency would immediately close it down. So if your aggregator like Red Bus or anything is showing 12 buses, it means approximately 85 to 90% occupancy is there. All right, so that is one thing. And average turn journey. Then there is something called as Udan, which is again related to the Indian context here. So Udan is some kind of benefits being offered to the aviation companies for operating aircrafts in routes that are not so popular to make it connected. So they were giving some SOPs. So this is visit a first or a last flight, number of competing flights, number of proximity flights in the 90-minute window. Why do I have to travel with ABC? In about 20 minutes, I have a much better flight, which is there. So all these factors were taken into consideration, and on that basis, we came up with the prediction model. And we got, for the Indore Hyderabad, when we did that, giving the load factor, we got 75% accuracy, currently 82% accuracy. And with various feature selection, etc., we could, say that this Hyderabad Indore is having that. And obviously, that resulted in the Hyderabad Indore flight being operational. Indore, Ahmedabad, like I said, for other operational reasons, it was not done. So that was something that I thought I'll use this opportunity to explain to you about using a case study, which is which will probably cover the full aspects of the power of aviation analytics and what all the things that we've done. So if you have any Q&As, then I'd be more than happy to ask you. I mean, respond to you. Um, yeah, okay. So this is you may yeah. Please do follow us on YouTube, LinkedIn, my LinkedIn profile also, and on Facebook. And you also may mark your attendance. That is one thing. And if you have any specific question, uh, you can please ask me. I'm sorry, what is random.nx? Are you talking about the network analytics with reference to, because NX is generally in Python, for networks, we generally call it in that particular function. Is it something to do with that you are asking? All right. I don't think. So that is, of course, okay. That is, you're getting into a too technical thing with reference to that, which is basically, some kind of simulation, etc. That can be done. All right. Uh, yeah, I mean, if you get into the functionalities and codes of it, there are various things. All right. So, random.nx, yeah, I'm aware the name. Not worked on it in great detail, but yeah, I'm aware of it, and my team has worked on it. So that is something for basically some kind of simulation. All right, which is an amazing tool at this point of time, but that's okay. We will not be able to discuss the random.nx at this point of time here, but yeah, good point that you've made there. So, all right, friends, it is 18:30 IST and 2100 MYT. That is the two time zones that we have seen here. So it's time to wrap it up. Thank you so much for um sitting through this and connecting with us. Have a great evening ahead. Thank you.